everyone, this is Kelly from The Truth in Story, and we're just going to take a little look at Sibilla cards. I had shown Sibilla cards in, I think, my card counting video, and a lot of people had messaged me about this. Now Soren has a channel here on YouTube, and he's done a lot of videos on Sibilla, so I will put a link to his channel in the description box below because he's got a lot of information about Sibilla. So yeah, make sure you check that out. The Sibilla card deck that I had been given was this one right here, which is called Sibilla Oracle Cards. And this is, by the interesting thing, well, it'll make more sense when I explain it, but the interesting thing is that this is Lo Scarabeo. All three of these other decks besides the Il Minigalo one are Lo Scarabeo. They're called something different, and all have references to Sibilla. So this has Sibilla della Zingara. This one has Vera Sibilla Italiana. And this one just has it on the front, Sibilla Oracle Cards. This one does not follow the same cards as the other Sibilla and the other information that I was able to find. This definitely kind of goes off on its own, so I'm not going to kind of do the comparison flip through with it because it doesn't stay the same. It's very similar in style. It certainly has similar cards. Has some of the same cards, but they don't always go with the same cards. So this has 1, 2, 3, 4 languages. You have the English in blue down at the bottom. You have the number of the cards, and then you have the oh, wait a minute, yeah. And then you have, I guess these aren't in order. I thought I had them in order. I have them, I think, in order of the playing cards, which is how they generally go in order of 1 through 13. And then the, the King, Jack, King, and Queen are 11, 12, and 13. But this one just has them numbered straight through, and they don't match up with the other decks. But you do have, again, the titles in 4 languages, the playing card insert, the images here, and they are very similar. I haven't gone through to see, okay, what are the differences, what are the different cards, but they are not following the same pattern as the other Sibilla decks, and I know that these are more accurate to a Sibilla deck, and so that's why I wanted to say this, because you'll see this on Amazon. But this is not a traditional, it doesn't follow the same pattern as traditional Sibilla deck. So I wanted to point that out. Now, the two easiest to access would be these two. These are both, I purchased both of these on Amazon, and they were both around $10. I think one might have been under $10 and one was right at $10. This is the Everyday Oracle, which is the Vera Sibilla Italiano here, which has a much more of a traditional look to it. It doesn't have the hearts. It has the I'm assuming the first letter of what would be hearts in Italian, but it doesn't actually have the hearts there. Like you can see, this has the number and then the symbol of the suit, just so you have to kind of figure out what that is. It has the title in Italian, and it has the lottery numbers, which these sometimes are associated with lottery numbers, some of them. They don't all have lottery numbers, but many of them do. But it looks much like the traditional style. The Gypsy Oracle cards, which is the Sibilla della Zingara, doesn't have numbers to it. There's no numbering. It doesn't show the playing card association. It does show the English title above the card, which is helpful, and then it has 4 other languages below. Now obviously you could cut that off at the bottom and then round your corners if you wanted to. Of course that would mess up the very lovely back. But this does not give you any of the playing card associations or any kind of numbering system here. So those are the two, quickly, easily, cheaply available decks on Amazon. This is Il Minigallo's version, which you can get on his website, which I'll put a link to below. And so this one is an older one that my friend Bart found for me and sent to me. And I was so excited about it. I've really been using this about every night since I got it. And this is beautifully done. It has the Il Minigallo stamp. It's got the title, Sibilla Original, del 1890 per Divinaire. And it has the sweet little ties that this all goes into. And these are, the only thing about this deck is that they are quite highly laminated, which is really surprising for Il Minigallo. I didn't think that he had any laminated decks, but there is lamination on these decks. You have the number 1 through 13 in the suits, and then the suit number, or the suit symbol, I'm sorry, and then you have the Italian name below. So this one is absolutely beautiful, but it is highly laminated, so just be aware of that, because you might expect with Il Minigallo that that would not be the case. Now, Sibilla is a deck that, from what I understand, and I'm not an expert, but from what I understand, was originated in Austria as a 32 card deck, and then it was developed later in Italy into a full 52 card deck. And so I think what we see as Sibilla today is based off of that Italian 52 card deck. And so, for example, this is a version from 1890. The Il Minigallo is taken from an 1890 deck. And so this has graduated from the 32 Austrian deck to the 52 deck from Italy, which is, again, pretty much how I think people see these. There's a really good website about kind of a little bit of the history and some books that are available, as well as decks that are available, and I will put a link to that in the description box below as well, because that was very helpful just in terms of getting an idea of what's available, where it's available at, and a little bit of history. There's not a lot in English on this particular deck, although there are a couple books. It is very similar to Lenormand. Some people, one of the people I was reading said, one of the mistakes that sometimes people make is in thinking that it is a visual playing card. So you're basically taking the old school cartomancy and putting images to them, but that's not true. Very much like Lenormand, you can't always see exactly why a particular playing card was associated with that, and this is definitely the case. While it was used, you can use those to add on. Whoops, let me find them. I don't know where my phone is. While you can use the playing cards to add information on, simply like you do with Lenormand, it doesn't define the cards. The cards are kind of separate of themselves, and then you can use also the playing cards as well. As you'll see on this one, it doesn't even give you those playing card associations. The other thing that differs, it reads, again, very similar to Lenormand or Kipper or Gypsy Witch. It's in that same time period and in that same style of these decks. But there are 52, whereas Lenormand and Kipper have 36. There are 52 cards, a full, what we consider a full deck of cards. So one thing I will say that is, if you are interested in kind of dipping your toes into Sibilla and want to get something easily available, I personally would recommend the Vera Sibilla Italiano or called the Everyday Oracle by Lo Scarabeo. Again, it's quite cheap, but one of the things that's really nice about this is that it has, we're talking about, let's see, 7 pages, right? So there's only 7 pages here, but at least it has each of the cards with its English meaning, as well as, you know, just a couple keywords. So that's the best booklet in terms of Little White Book, because there is English. The Il Minigalo one is a really lovely old, this is the old version of it. I did go in and Google translate the titles and some basic information about each of them, so that I had those, but that is all in Italian. It is not, there isn't any English in this guidebook. And of course the names are not in English, which is the case here as well, although it's pretty easy to tell what it is that you're looking at. You know, the benefit of this one is that you do have the English title, but you won't be able to use any sort of playing card associations with it, but you at least have the English title there. So if you want any kind of this, but this does not have any, make sure it has English in it, but there is nothing showing the actual card meanings. So I have multiple languages here, but nothing in terms of what are the card meanings. But you do have the English words, and that is, you know, again, it's similar to Lenormand and Kipper. If you're comfortable with that style of reading, what does house mean to you? What does having a conversation mean to you when you're doing a particular, what does waiting mean? You've got the English word, so that and the images, so that is quite a bit to work on. And so, you know, I think that this would be not difficult to work with whatsoever. Again, if you're comfortable with this style of card reading. So that's what we have. So we again have the tuck boxes, we have the little white books, we have zero English, or we have English, but we have zero card meanings in this one. We have zero English in this one. And this one is not the same, so I would not recommend this just in terms of learning Sibilla. Now you might like it, like me, to have as part of your collection, and you can certainly use it, but in terms of if you want to learn Sibilla a little bit more traditionally, this probably would not be a good one to start with. And then the Everyday Oracle, again, having at least the English meanings in the Little White Book. So I wanted to go over that real quick. Backs, this is really beautiful. It's probably my favorite of the backs. I obviously would blacken the sides because you have black fronts, black back edges, so I would be inclined to blacken that. Blacken that up. So I'd also be inclined to trim this one because we have the English right here, so I would be inclined to maybe trim it just really thinly or close to the edge. I'm not sure. I may be inclined to trim this, but that's just me. You know, I like to trim things, and it would give me a little bit of a smaller one. So I'm going to put this, we're going to zoom in. So this backing is, you know, just more of a traditional, just pattern backs that you would find in traditional decks, and you see in Il Minigalo decks. And then this one has the whiteboard. This is another one I would be inclined to trim so that it stayed with the old style, and just kind of trim the white off of that and trim the white off of the back. So that's probably something that I would do, but it will impact the shuffleability. So now I'm going to zoom in here and compare these and do a quick flip through. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each of the cards. These are just one-word titles. Size-wise, you can see these are almost identical, with the Il Minigalo being just a little bit shorter. They're the exact same width. This is just a hair a bit larger than this one. They're all, and this is a little bit larger than the Il Minigalo. So in comparison to, say, a poker size card, these are more bridge. So they're skinnier, but they are slightly smaller. So it's like a, or this one's slightly taller, but it's a little bit closer to a bridge because it's a little more narrow, which low Scarabeo cards tend to be more narrow anyways. The other difference between this, from what I understand, between this and Sibilla and Lenormand and Kipper, is that you do have references to using reversals with Sibilla, which you do not ever see with Lenormand or Kipper. So yeah, if anybody tells you Lenormand and Kipper are read with reversals, not true. And but apparently that is possible for you to do, or it is part of the system possibility with Sibilla. I haven't used reversals with it. I don't quite see the need for it. There are positive light and shadow in cards, so I'm not sure that I would probably use it, but I might give it a try and see how it goes. So here we have, the first one we have is conversation. So you can see in all of these people having conversations. These are actually quite similar in the position of the people, and I'll be interested to see if that, I haven't looked at these to compare them. Whereas this is a bunch of ladies that are having a conversation, so very clearly a different art. Whereas this one seems to be exactly based on the same, just with different coloring. That may be the case all the way through. So here we have the house. You know, this is home. We have the waiting card. Again, very similar. They're slightly different, so it's not like it's just a recoloring of the exact same thing. See, the blankets are different, but it's clearly based off of the same exact deck, where this is a little bit more of a modern, not modern, but you know, I don't know, I'm bad with eras, but you know, it seems to have a little bit more of a you know, 1920s kind of feel to this woman. Again, horrible at picking time frames, so don't count that, whereas this looks a little bit older. This is the waiting card. There's a Kipper card like this that is her thoughts, and it's that idea of patience and waiting for something. Of course, now we have love with lots of cupids. This one is probably my favorite. I love the coloration on this one, although there's definitely a brightness here, and that's a very loungy fat cherub. But this is Cupid, obviously. Here we have joyfulness. I should have this out so we can see if this is the same as these. A joyous heart is what they have this one named at, and again, so you can see it is based off of the same image. It's definitely I would say it's definitely a redrawing, because it's not the exact same lines, but it's really close. Really close, and actually may have been just with a little bit of a different background. Next we have money, which they all are called money. So yeah, you can just see it's exactly different painted. Okay, I won't keep repeating myself. Even the same color palette here. Again, we do have the lottery numbers added here, but I really like, obviously I will get to know that C stands for heart, but I do like having that heart association right there. And this is just a completely new redrawing. I like money cards because in like Kipper decks and things, you know, what is open could have possibly get something stolen from, where the side is closed, then you have a little bit more safety. Very interesting. The next card that we have is, they have as Scholar, we have as Man of Letters. So it looks like you would think that this was the letter card just from Letterado, but there is a letter card. This is the, you know, intellectual, the scholarly man. And again, very similar. Just, I do like the muted colors and the way that this has been kind of stippled in a lot of the cards. I do really like this Everyday Oracles. It looks quite lovely. Here we have Hope. Very lovely. This one's very poignant. I do quite like that one. Here we have Faithfulness. Very lovely dog. in this one as well. I also like the cat in this one better. So we have faithfulness, which is, these are also referred to as faithfulness. But you can see, you know, differences in the way that the tree, but the actual tree itself, the lines are all still right there. Next we have constancy, perseverance, that type of thing. We have the lover. You know, all of them have him sort of going to be singing a song to his lover there. Love the puffy pants here. And then here we have the lover as well, but this would be the female version of the lover, which they have it called as Sweetheart. Very sweet picture. A lot of yellow tone to this one. And then we have the Queen, or the King of Hearts here as the Lord. And then we come to the next suit of clubs, and we have nuptials, we have wedding, we have a hand, you know, putting a ring on over fire, and a cloud of smoke here. We have the haughtiness, kind of vanity card. You have the peacock. This is really beautiful. This is actually quite beautiful as well. So that idea of vanity and pride. You have travel, the travel card, or they call it the journey card. You have the friend card. This would be your friend. This is really pretty, painted wise. Of course, we have, this is a very popular image I've seen on other decks, but that's also on the front of the box. So here we have luck. You know, this is Lady Fortune. This is Fortuna. This is really beautiful. That one is beautiful as well, but this, I really like that one. That would be my favorite. We have surprise, but it's a surprise that's going to make you feel better. So this deck even lists it as comforting surprise, which is nice because you can see that almost consoling, consolante. You think of the word consoling, and so there's a little, it's not just a surprise, but it's a surprise that's going to help make things better, which I quite like. So they've, you know, pulled in a net full of money. Then we have just consolation, or the great constellation. So they're just dreaming of the way, if I could just have this, everything would be better, right? Here we have the reunion card, which is what they also call, we have these two people obviously coming together. Maybe they've been apart for a while and they are coming back together again. We have the cheerfulness card. So again, very same line art, almost identical. A little more detail to this particular deck in terms of the painting and the coloring in. Has a little bit more detail. So this is, everybody's having a great time. I love this card, and this is so beautiful. So here we have the lightness card, or frivolity is what they have here. That frivolity has a little bit of a message of sort of like it's not, it's frivolous. You think, okay, it's not really worth your time, frivolous, which I don't get with this card. This is more that lightness and sensitivity, that beautifulness of a butterfly. So I see that a little bit. That word could have been used differently before. Sorry, I've got my window open because it's absolutely beautiful. Here we then have the servant. So this is the male servant, and we have this person who is of service. Now there's a difference between service and servant, but there is a female servant as well. It's like Kipper, there are a lot more people there. But they talk about this as a helper, an employee, somebody who you can collaborate with. And then here we have the young girl, very lovely young woman. And then we have the doctor, and this can be any professional, a physician, a lawyer, somebody that can help you solve a problem. So there's not necessarily any understanding of somebody being sick. It's really about that professional person who might be able to help, which is a great card to get. The Fox card in Lenormand does that for me, and it's nice to have one that's separate for that. And that changes us over to the suit of diamonds. And here we have the room, which is much more. So we have the house, but the room is that intimate space, that space where you really are secure in your own actual space. It's a little bit more, and it speaks of intimacy and privacy. The ultimate, the house is, yes, a private sphere, but the room, your room is your ultimate place of privacy. And then here we have the letter. So this would be, that's the other one you might think of as a letter. This is very clearly the letter card. The next one is gift of precious stones, or gift card. You know, you're getting some special, wonderful thing. It's a very creepy little cat. It looks like a man cat. Its face looks, I mean, it kind of looks like it has a human, it looks like an Alice in Wonderland kind of cat, whereas that's just a cute cat. Now this does have this for falsehood. Poor cats, they get a rap, I have to say. Hypocrisy, hidden intention, you don't really know what they're up to, whereas dogs, you pretty much know exactly what they're feeling when you look at them. Sometimes with cats, you don't. So you can kind of approach it that way instead of flat out lies, but yeah. The little man face, we don't know what's going on behind there. The next one is melancholy, a sadness, you know, depression, very clouds card kind of card. Girl, lady's looking sad. Then we have the man who is deep in thought, you know, pensiveness, that kind of pensiero, and I think of pensive. That's why I'm saying, even, you know, you can tend to see some of the root words here and see where it's going. He looks pensive, right? He's reflecting, he is thinking things through. Here we have bambino, or child. Oh, sweet. These are a little bit look like child babies, where this looks like a little baby. And then this one, I believe, is the, yeah, so this is the woman servant. And so this one is like the maid. This is help, but it's more of that houseworky kind of help, more on where you can actually collaborate with the male servant, with the woman servant. It's a little bit more of that day-to-day help, like actually needing some help, like cleaning your house and doing your grocery shopping. Next is the delirious, which is just being stupid. You see these young boys, and they're just kind of this, okay, you're being stupid here. Can we, you know, grow up a little bit kind of attitude. Here we have the thief, who's coming to get the money out of the safe, from the safe card, or the money card. Lost goods, things that are taken from you. Like the mouse card is things that are being removed. It's very similar. Here we have the messenger, good or bad news that arrives from afar, much like the rider, except for he's walking. Here we have the married woman. So we had a younger woman, now this is a married with somebody that's respectable. This is more motherly. We can see the mother with the child, so it's a little bit of a different female energy. And then we have the merchant, and this is literally not so much to do about a person, but about actual contracts and agreements and mediation and those kinds of things that the merchant would be doing. More about those things than it is about, or actions, than it is about him as a person. And then, of course, here we go to the spades, and we have somebody who is worried. They have this as sorrow. It's also done as worry, affliction, trouble. You can tell they're clearly not very happy. Here we have the old woman. We've had, you know, young woman, we've had the motherly woman, and now this is the older woman, the mother, the aunt, the grandmother. But it can also be an old acquaintance. I do like the keywords on here because it lets you know, you've got to sometimes expand the way you see these, and what is that energy of that auntie that's going to, come and have conversation with you, or an old friend that you meet up with after a while. We definitely have the older woman here. For the next one, we have the widower. So he has obviously lost. This is lonely, sad. This is somebody that's bound to their past, which is interesting, right? Because he's still visiting the grave there. Next, we have the sick person. So we can see somebody sick in bed. We have this in Kipper as well. And it doesn't, this one says it's uncertain seriousness, whereas the Kipper is like a, you're not, things aren't going great, but it's not going to last real long. Where this one could, you can just work that in other ways, just things aren't doing so great. Clearly on the next one, things have really gone downhill, and we have the death card, or the coffin card. Morte would be actual death, I think. Yeah, death. That's a pretty creepy death card there for this style of a deck. But here, I'm not sure what this is. It's like a huge match or something. I'm not sure what that is. Detachment from a situation, abandonment, death, ending. It's like the coffin card. And then we have longings. This is our memories, nostalgia, where we are longing for something to come, to ship. This one's actually quite similar to the rest, just different clothing style, but still have them looking out to sea, waiting for her lover to come back. My lover's gone. Who sings that? It's a good song. Bring him home again. I don't know. Somebody tell me what song that is. Here we have, okay, now I got sidetracked. Where are we? Now we have misfortunes. This is exactly what people are always asking me is going to happen. What do I do with what decks am I going to buy again when this happens to my house? So misfortune, destruction, very tower moment, right? Here we have somebody's distraught, probably because their tower just burnt down. But this is distraught. This can be also, and they have despair. This can also be about jealousy. Like, what are the different things? Because this person's actually holding a gun to his head. Like, he's really upset. Excessive attachment. Like, this is somebody who's really upset and not thinking clearly. We have the next one is imprisonment, being constrained, not being able to act. Being in prison. Kipper has a prison card. We have the soldier or the military person. Relationship. So it can be police. It can be military. It can be that strong, kind of physical person who is obviously coming to hopefully help. Probably take the gun away from that guy. And then here we have the enemy, and there are, I believe, 2 enemy cards. Yeah, so this is the male enemy, Nemiko, like Nemesis, and Nemika. So we have the bad people here, the male and female bad people, and yeah, they have it as enemy. Let's see what they do with the next one. Foe. So we have enemy and foe, but we obviously have a male and a female. And then lastly, we have the priest card here. So this is a man of faith, a spiritual guide. It can also be a psychologist. That's who you would go to for obviously help at this time, and spiritual and mental well-being and such. And so we have the priest. So there we have it. All 52 of the Sibilla cards from so this one in black is the Gypsy Oracle cards, or Sibilla della Zingare. But you can see that this does follow the It does follow the cards that we saw. They just have different images there, but it does follow very well. And you do have the English title here. You don't have the card associations or the lottery numbers. And you don't have any kind of card information in this book. So I just want, because some people have asked me about this. That's why I'm trying to be a little bit thorough here. So that's this one. This one you can see is just beautifully done. These are identical, so that lets you know that this one, oh here, sorry, in front of me. The Vera Sibilla Italiana is the Everyday Oracle, again by Lo Scarabeo. You can get this on Amazon. This does have meanings in the little white book, and it's the same line work. Maybe slight differences, but it's pretty much the same line work as the Il Menegalo one, with just a different painting style, a little bit more detail. It kind of has that sort of, like the Centennial, if you like the color palette and sort of the way that the background, little dots and things like that of the Centennial Rider-Waite-Smith, it has a real feel of that for me. Really lovely. It's quite a lovely version of it, and again, this is quite cheap. But this is the Il Menegalo, which now this doesn't come like this anymore. It will come in a box, but they used to have them like this, which I love having because my friend Itzy has many Il Menegalo decks from her mother that are like this, all like wrapped up like this in a beautiful package. Look at that. It's a book. It looks like a book from the side, and then you tie it up. Obviously, it doesn't protect the cards as much as a box, which is probably why they've gone on to using boxes, but look at how awesome. I'm so thrilled to have this. Look at that. But in terms of images, these are the same. So the Sibilla Originale and the Vera Sibilla Italiana are the same images there, and same card associations. So I guess we're going to shuffle this one. Okay, let me zoom out here. I'll show you how which I've already shown you in the counting, but I'll still do it real quick. I'll show you how I have been using this deck, because I use this one every night for myself. It just makes me very happy. Doesn't have a lot of bend to it, like a stiffer playing card stock. It's got a gloss to it, but it's definitely not shiny as the Il Menegalo one. It's not like a really beautiful playing card stock. It's $10 or under $10. So, you can't ask for the world from an under $10 deck, but it shuffles well. And again, you can use reversals. I just don't tend to use them, or I haven't used them with it. I didn't with this one. This is the one I've had, which again is not the same. I'll have to do another video kind of talking about what are the different cards here. But that's the one I was using up until I received this one. So I have been doing my 9 cards. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So here we have the priest. I was giving us advice here about love and probably about keeping love safe. We have the this would be the male servant, I believe. I will have to double check it. And that's the one downside, is I need to write a little note on here. What are the F's, like what does that stand for? Because I don't, that's something that I don't know. But this is one of the knights, or the jacks, I'm sorry. And so this would be clubs, which is the servant, yeah. So here we have needing some help, right? Because somebody's in a really bad state. They're really upset. And then we would turn it over, and I must have counted wrong because usually you have 7 and then you do 8, 9. And so we have that she's in need of consolation. She needs to hold fast to her dreams. She needs some help because she's really upset, but she also needs to look to the future and figure out what it is that she wants so she can start figuring out how to get there. Here we have the enemy, the woman enemy. 1, 2, 3. Here we have this idea of pensiveness, maybe overthinking. Maybe her enemy is her own, because we've got her in the middle. So it's, when again, I haven't asked her actual question, but maybe, you know, part of her thoughts and her getting too caught up in her head is her problem. That's her own enemy, is her own self. You kind of get that feeling there. And then here we've got her, yeah, she's got herself into a state of melancholy. So that's, there we go. And then you can go and do everything you would do with a regular 9 card. You could look to the future, you could look to the past, you could even look to the corners. I tend to do kind of 3 card chunks with the Sibilla, or that's what I've been doing. And see, then, you know, you can go about and see your interplay, but these 3 messages kind of, you could even do sort of what's going on in the head, what's going on, what's the key of the situation, and then, you know, what's underneath it all. She definitely is way too much in her own head, way too pensive and melancholy, and she's her own enemy is what I'm seeing with that right there. So there you go. That's one way that you can do it. Now, you don't have to do that counting method. That's just how I've been using Sibilla, because I'd have a different method of Kipper. You know how I use Lenormand. And so this is just something that lets Sibilla stand out for me. But certainly it is not the only way to read it. Here, I'll put out the other deck so you can see that one as well. I did the Il Minigalo one in the counting deck. But you could just do it, you know, straight up, put 9 cards out. Again, very similar card stock. It's low Scarabeo, so. And you can just split your deck and then just lay out your 9 cards. So we've got melancholy and falseness. So maybe that there's more than there thinks there is. And maybe that this is a false melancholy, that you really shouldn't be melancholy. You're able to persevere through this. This is something that you really perhaps shouldn't be stuck in melancholy over, because there is that constancy there. We've got the faithfulness, and then we've got that friend who somebody we think is a friend who may not be, but may be. So I almost have that message of, you've got a lot of friendships here. Just be careful that there may be somebody in the midst of those friends who isn't quite so helpful or true. We have a young woman. We have the man being of service. And we have the child, right? So we have that younger, carefree woman here. And that you may be actually, because the service, remember, is about kind of working together and collaborating with it. You may be able to be collaborating with and to bring about something new. You can also think of the people can also simply be just like this is a person, but it's about melancholy. Well, what does it mean? This is in like a Kipper card. There's a young rich girl. What does it mean to be able to kind of be affluent, have the things that you need? Very 9 of Pentacles, right? That idea of being in a place at a young age and being in a place in which you're able to do the things that you need to do, that you may need some help to get there, but there's some new things on the horizon. So, you know, when you're working with older decks that do have a lot of people, you think about court cards. Court cards don't always have to be exact people. They can just be the energy of the situation. And when you're working with older decks, you kind of just think about what does that keyword or that image and that title, what does that really say? You know, what is that symbol that comes up when you think about it? So this one here, again, just as a recap, you have the English words, you don't have the playing cards associations, and you don't have any keywords in the book, it's in the little booklet itself. And this is the Gypsy Oracle cards, or the Sibilla della Singara. So I hope that this helps a couple people who have messaged me about what are these Sibilla cards, what are they. Again, you read them very similar to Kipper or Lenormand. It's in that same, or Gypsy Witch, it's in that same style. It's in those same style of reading. It's just another version of that, again, that came out of Austria and then was taken up and shifted to the 52 cards in Italy. And so there we have it. I hope that you have enjoyed this. Again, steer clear of this one as a learning one because it's different. Oops, which is, wait, now I got cards mixed up. Oh, there, this one goes here. So, oh, and just to recap, just in terms of if you have nothing about Sibilla, you don't know anything about it, this might be your best one because at least you've got the keywords in this particular guidebook, which I'm sure I've said like 12 times, but that's the one that I would probably recommend because it is that original style, the original cards there, but you do have the keywords of the cards, which I think that's really all you need, right? I think that if you're comfortable, again, with this cartomantic style of Gypsy Witch, Lenormand, Kipper, this is just, you know, it's just another deck. You've got some extra cards, and it's neat to see different cards come into play, but it's very similar reading style, and a lot of fun to be able to pick something up. But this, I think, would be the easiest, just to start from nothing and just have something to play around with and work with. This would probably be the easiest. So have an absolutely wonderful day.